Well, I think we're going to get started because you're all here. I'm just going to show you my menorah because it won't show on screen.
Oh, it's
And
beautiful.
isn't it pretty? I picked a really big one. I probably should have picked a small one, but I have a collection. Anyway, good evening, everybody. I'm Wendy Kohlenberg, and I'm in West Bloomfield, Michigan. I'm a member of the program committee for WRJ, and I can't tell you how excited we all are that you are here. Bernice and Talia and I have been talking about this since September, and we just can't believe it's already here. We are going to be learning from Chef Bernice with videographer Peter, her husband, together tonight. You all would have received the recipes in your confirmation email, and if you want to cook along with her, that's great. If not, you'll at least learn from her and her expertise tonight, so we're very excited. I'd like to do a brief intro of my dear friend Bernice, who's a member of the North Atlantic WRJ Board of Directors. She's on the WRJ Mid-Atlantic District Board, where she serves as their VP of Philanthropy and Special Projects, and of course, the cookbook chair. She's one of 5 presidents on the Leadership Council of the Women of Temple Rhoda Shalom Sisterhood in Falls Church, Virginia. Their membership secretary, co-chair of the Passover Cookbook Committee, no surprise, and writes a monthly food column. Bernice graduated from the University of South Carolina and is a retired registered nurse. She's an avid self-taught chef and baker and has taken several international cooking courses. She's married to the wonderful Peter, and who is her videographer today, as I've mentioned, for 54 years. They have 3 wonderful daughters and 3 fantastic granddaughters who all share Bernice's passion for cooking and baking. Tonight, Bernice will show us how to make potato spinach knishes and will walk us through making 2 delicious cocktails, virgin peach mimosa and a pear coconut cooler. If you have any questions while Bernice is demonstrating the recipes, ask away or post them in the chat, which I'll be monitoring. Bernice likes to chat while she cooks. Thank you if you'll all mute yourself as we join Chef Bernice in her kitchen.
Thank you, Wendy. Well, first, I always like to show what we're going to be demonstrating tonight. So this is my spinach potato knish. And this is, today I bought some gluten-free bread for anybody that's gluten-free and made it out of gluten-free bread. So you can actually make it from gluten-free and you can enjoy that. First, we'd like to drink a little bit because we're having a celebration and this is a definite time to have a delicious, I think this is a peach Bellini without, it's no alcohol, everybody. Let me give it a taste. Yum. What I used to make that was the Chardonnay grape juice, sparkling white, and there's no alcohol in it. Tastes really good. You know who owns that? You know who you can get that from? Is Trader Joe's. This is the peach nectar that I've used, and now I'm going to show you how to make the pear coconut cooler. This is my favorite drink in the summer, but oh my God, it is so delicious if you want to have a lovely taste in your mouth. So I've measured out most of all the ingredients and I'm going to put them right into my blender. So this is the pear nectar. You can buy that in any of the stores. The coconut cream. I wanted to make sure that it was definitely cool because I want this to be a nice, delicious, cool drink. So I'm going to put in the coconut cream. Coconut cream is found either in the area where you shop for alcoholic beverages. It's a accompaniment to making your drinks, and this is one of the ones that is that you can purchase, the coconut cream. Okay, next ingredient is going to be rum, and I like to use Myers rum, the darker one, and I've measured out the exact amount. I'm making this for two portions, so when Peter's done videographing, he can definitely have a good drink. The next is club soda, And I'm supposed to do 1/3 of a cup. So I waited to open it so it still stays a little bubbly. So I'm going to measure out 1/3 of a cup. And you want to measure, when you measure something, you want to put it up to your eye. You don't want to have it down here because it's not the same. When you look up to your eye, it's a better way of measuring. And you put it in there. And then the last thing that adds into it is the lime juice. And it gives it a lovely flavor. So then you want to mix this up. And I'm going to put this on. Put it on and give it a good shake. And stop. I'm going to get my ice because I wanted not to have water in it, so I had to wait for my ice. Okay, and then all you do is put it into a pitcher. And voila, you have your pear coconut cooler. I wish you could smell it because it really smells delicious. It has that lovely odor from the lime juice and of course the pears.
Bernice, somebody asked, the recipe says 1 cup club soda, but you put in 1/3 of a cup.
Yes, I'm making it a 2 portion, as I said, for just 2 people. So I've divided it by, I've made it into, I've cut the proportions down. So
Okay.
yes, good eye, whoever said that.
You like when they
Then
read your
you
recipe.
pour it into the serving vessel, which is our cups. And although it says 2 portions, look how much it makes. Because guess what? I definitely would want to have more than 2 of these. Peter will taste it and will give you his expert opinion on whether it's delicious. Oh my God. Mm.
Oh, yeah, it is good.
Oh yeah, it is good.
She won't say this, but our daughters love that drink.
Oh yes.
Oh, yum.
Oh
Okay.
yes. One day I was having a dinner party for like 24 people. And my daughters were in the kitchen, and every time they were serving a drink for somebody else, they had a drink too. So, oh, that was an interesting celebration. Okay, now I would like to tell you how to do the potato spinach knishes. So you want to get white bread, and it's or honey wheat bread or whole wheat bread, and you want to get the kind that looks sort of like this. It's like a sandwich, the sandwich bread. Okay, I want to show you. This is the whole wheat. And this is the white. And you want to make sure that it's a little spongy, because what you're going to be doing is you're going to take off the ends and you're going to roll it out. So I've already taken off the ends like that, made sure that it looks like a square as possible as it could be, or a rectangle, sort of a rectangle. Then you want to take a rolling pin, but you don't have to have, it doesn't have to be a metal one. It could be any kind, and it doesn't have to be floured. You don't want to have flour on this particular one. A lot of recipes do call for flouring your rolling pin, but this one you don't have to do. Then what you want to do is you want to take it from the center, and you want to put your hands on it like this, and you want to roll towards you. Then you want to take it from the center and roll away from you. Then you want to turn it upside down. Look how flat it is right now. But you want to make it even flatter.
Bernice, I'm going to interrupt for a second.
Okay.
We have a couple questions. How about processing the ice into the blender to make it frothy for the cocktail?
Well, it did get a little frothy, but you're absolutely right. We've done that, but may water down the alcohol. So
Okay.
if you would prefer to do that, add a little more alcohol so you have a nice little flavor of the rum.
And then regarding the bread, somebody said, why use bread instead of dough? Is it because it's easier? And along those lines, somebody was thinking of puff pastry or phyllo with the filling.
Oh yes, it definitely, you can do that. But this is a quick way of making appetizers. You know, we have limited time in our lives because we're busy WRJ people. So we want to make the recipes as easy as possible and healthy too. The puff pastry is a little bit more buttery, more calories. This isn't as caloric. I think this is like 40 calories per per slice, as opposed to, I don't know what the puff pastry would be, but it's a little bit more high in calories. Okay, so this is what you want to, it's going to look like. It's a nice flat piece. It looks like dough. And then what you do is you turn it so that it's the longer piece. So it is more like a rectangle right now. And I have my potatoes and my spinach. Now, what you want to do is I usually take a box of spinach that's been in the freezer. And then what I do is I put it into a Ziploc bag and I either let it overnight defrost or I put it into the microwave and defrost it that way. It emits a lot of liquid. So then you go over to the sink and you get rid of that liquid by squeezing the spinach real well so that you get all of the liquid out, and then you add it to your mashed potatoes. Now your mashed potatoes can be the way you like to make it. I don't want to give a recipe for it because you may do something really terrific and I don't want to change your recipe for mashed potatoes. Then you add an egg like the recipe calls for. And if you want to add some more pepper, which I like to do, so I just, give it a few little turns of the pepper mill. And then you have to fry up some onions. Now, as I'm showing this recipe today, this is the way the onions should look after you've fried them. They should be almost translucent, a little bit of a color, but mostly translucent, okay? And so you add the onions, the amount that's in the recipe. I am making a smaller portion because if I had to make the whole entire portion, I would be here till tomorrow morning. No, I'm only kidding. I would be here for a little bit longer than we have to demonstrate. So then you add it to your mix, okay?
Bernice, can you use fresh spinach?
It would emit a lot of liquid if you use fresh spinach, and the answer is no. You need to use or you need to cook the spinach that's fresh and then squeeze it out. Just like I said, you have to get rid of all the water. If you've ever made spinach, you know what happens. It gets very watery.
Yes.
So that's the answer to that question. Okay. You want it to look like this. Why I'm saying that is you don't want it to be too watery. When you make your mashed potatoes, don't add a lot of milk if you add milk to it, and add a little bit of butter or margarine, however you make it, but make it look like it's firm enough to hold its shape, okay? Not watery, all right?
But Bernice, you said you could use cooked fresh spinach as long as you squeeze the water out.
The cooked fresh spinach needs to, I know, I have something else. The cooked fresh spinach needs to be cold, and then it needs to be wringed out. You have to wring it out so that the water from the spinach is gone. As well as the potatoes. You don't want to use potatoes that you just mashed. You want to have them cold when you're doing this recipe. Okay, so I've already, as I said, did the rolling out. And now I'm going to show you, if you want to get a little closer, I'm going to show you where you want to put the potatoes. Okay, you want to put it not at the end, but you want to put it as close to the end as possible. It says to put the eggs in a bowl. I prefer to use, that was the recipe that I had, but I prefer to use a flatter surface because as you see in a minute, I'm going to put it in there and I'm going to, toss it around and around. And I want to make sure that I get all of it covered in the egg. It says also to push it down because sometimes the dough is nice and soft. Yeah, the dough is nice and soft. I have it on. The dough is nice and soft. What you want to do is you want to pinch it together so that it stays together. However, the only other way you can do that is by dipping it into your egg. You obviously mixed it, so it's nice and mixed. It's just egg. It is not anything else, okay? Don't put anything in it like salt or pepper or whatever. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to put this in your hands and you want to make sure that it's kind of sealed together, which the egg helps doing that. Then the next thing you want to do.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt again.
No, it's okay.
So somebody said that could they use just potatoes, But I think in your recipe, you also say they could also use a different vegetable if their family doesn't like spinach.
I've actually used broccoli. It tasted really delicious. I've used carrots, but you want to make sure that that particular vegetables, all the other vegetables are cooked. See the spinach that's in the box, when you're using it, it's all wilted and partly cooked when they freeze it. So you want to make sure that your vegetables are partially cooked, or at least, done fork tender. Then you want to make sure that they're cold, and then you add it to your potato mix. Yes, you can use different vegetables. So I'm going to put this into the batter, into the oil. I use grapeseed oil, which has a high smoke point. So it's very good for grilling and cooking and all types of things when you want to make sure that you don't make a big mess. It only should be about a minute on each side. So while that's doing its thing, I am going to do another one to show you. As I said, you just put it at the bottom of the bottom portion, almost like a third down, 2/3 down, but you want to make sure that's about what you use. About 1.5 teaspoons of it, of your filling. And if you don't like onions, don't put onions in, put other things in. And then put it into the batter. You want to make sure it doesn't burn. So you want to make sure you use some type of a utensil to turn it, which I'm going to do right now. Oh, doesn't that look lovely?
Beautiful.
As it is cooking, it is heating up the potato portion and the spinach. So if you have that other vegetables, it would heat up at that as well. Now the same thing with when it comes down to to your gluten-free product, I thought, well, that may not work, but it did. I actually took the gluten-free bed and I flattened it like I did the other one, exactly like that. So I'm going to show you what that's going to look like. Now I made a different filling for that one. I used fresh dill, cut it all up, put some onion, I put some garlic powder in there, and I'm going to put a little pepper on top. And then what I did is I folded over the exact same way, and I put it into my batter. And let me see how this is doing, because I don't want to burn it. Looks perfect. And let me turn this one over. Now, obviously, if you are cooking gluten-free and you want to do both ways, you want to do a regular bread, you obviously want to do your gluten-free first, and you don't want to do it in this, you can do all your gluten-free in the one oil, and then you can do your next, your regular batter, or your regular bread. Okay, and so you just turn it, but because we don't have all the time in the world tonight, we want to schmooze a little bit, and we already had our taste of our cocktail. I'm going to put it all into the same one, just to show you that it does cook up just as well.
Somebody commented they make spanakopita and use a pinch of nutmeg with it. They find phyllo is also easy when using parquet squeezed margarine. Oh, somebody does chopped mushrooms with spinach. And do you like fresh dill with spinach also? Oh yes, and I was thinking that maybe I would, next time when I do my gluten-free, because I have a gluten-free friend, I would do the spinach with the fresh dill, and that probably would really give it a nice flavor. But I think we might add the onions. I didn't put the onions in the gluten-free one. What about the amount of oil? Somebody said you have to use that much. I just put about a 1/2 inch in the pan. Peter, you want to show them how much I have? It's really not much. You just want to make sure that the bottom part gets brown. Is able to fry the bottom part. Yeah. Wow. And then when you turn it over, if you find that this part isn't getting done, you can take your utensil and go like this, which I do. As somebody said, oil, it's Hanukkah, of course.
Yes. Okay, let's see what it looks like to turn it around. And that looks really good.
Somebody
Okay,
asked, could
And
you,
this is the gluten-free one.
could you spritz it with olive oil and air fry it?
Oh, I never tried, I don't have an air fryer, so I don't know. But if somebody does it, please let me know, because that would be really cool. I think
Absolutely.
that's a little less oily.
Yeah.
But what you do is you take a paper towel, which I will show you now, obviously, and just dab it, dab it, dab it. So right now, I'm going to let Peter taste the ones that I've made.
Lucky guy.
Gonna
Yeah.
come over here.
He's got the guest job. He's got the best job in town, Peter.
He
And
gets
he's
the
a
best
good-
job in town.
and a
So I
great
want him to taste the
videographer.
gluten-free one too, because I want you to know how delicious that is. Okay, so I like to serve it with mustard, but you can serve it with applesauce and everything, just like your latkes. So Peter, I'm gonna bring it to you and give you a bite.
Mm.
That's the gluten-free one.
Mm.
What say? He's eating,
Delicious.
so he says it's
Delicious.
It's
okay,
delicious.
and now I'm gonna have him taste.
And the gluten-free, it's very hard to tell the difference between the gluten-free and the not gluten-free.
Well,
And I think he gets a sip of the cocktail too.
oh, yeah.
Okay.
And there you go. There's your regular
Mm.
one. So I would like
Highly
everybody,
recommended.
All right.
I'd like everybody to grab their drink. I'm grabbing the pear coconut cooler, and I'm gonna head to my computer and talk about how many people have sent in recipes and how many recipes we have for our booklet. I'll be right back as Peter walks me to my room. Okay. Okay, Peter, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so why am I not on? Oh, yes, I am. Okay. So I would like to talk to you and tell you how many people sent in recipes. Right now, we have 20 recipes that have been sent in by the following people. Carol Newman, Eve Panache, Gail Feldman, Janet Katz, Lila Cohn, Lois Oberlander, Sherry Fuller, Simona Seidelman, Tamara Glick,
Tamara, yeah.
Tamara Glick, Trish Joseph, and Wendy Kohlenberg, and myself. So we have 20 recipes. Ladies, we want to make sure we get more recipes. So if you still would like to send in some recipes, have no fear. It's not the end. You can send them in to Talia, right?
Right, Talia, yeah.
Send it into Talia by the end of the year. And Talia's going to put in the chat there she has it. She has her email address for you to send in the recipes. Okay.
We called it for appetizers, but if you have something you love that you make at the holidays, have at it. It can be a variety of recipes. Certainly the program was based on appetizers, but don't let that hold you back. And they don't have to be Hanukkah related, so have at it.
So I'm going to say cheers, and I'm going to send my regards over to Wendy to take over for the rest of the program. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. You got me, Ty? Yeah. Hi. In a spotlight. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm back. Thank you, Bernice and Peter. That was fantastic. And again, if you have other questions, feel free to ask. At this point, since we are such a lovely group of 60 people, we're going to break up into breakout rooms. And a few of these lovely people have offered to be facilitators. I thank you in advance, especially those I had asked last minute. And we want you to share your name, where you're from, and I'm so excited because we really are from across the country. And then I want you to briefly share with each other if you've prepared or have been served an unusual food at the holidays. we'll say Hanukkah, but if it's Rosh Hashanah, another holiday, go for it. I want you to share that, or if there's a particular Hanukkah tradition that you do each year with your family or friends. We only have a couple minutes each to share because we want to keep this to about 15 minutes because we're very aware of timing of everybody and their busy schedules. But we're now going to send you to breakout rooms with some wonderful facilitators and share away and make a new friend in your breakout group. Thank you. Just want to share one or two things. Want to share one or two things from your group that might, that you think people would get a kick out of?
So group one, we talked about Hanukkah parties and what went on from our childhood. And we had a lengthy conversation about making latkes. Girls, did I miss anything?
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Carol. Anybody from group two? Argenia, what's your group?
I think it was four, and other people were so much fun. They were sharing, they were real cooks who love to cook and really do it for a lot of people. And so it was fun to hear how they make these large Hanukkah holiday dinners for a very diverse group of people. And one of them, their daughter, for their was it for the wedding reception or the wedding, I wanted to have the style of cooking that the father would make, and I thought that was very endearing. And we just share our love of good food, and it really brings out such a, such joy, I think.
Nice,
Good
nice.
food and remembering holidays. So that was that.
Thank you, Genya. Gail, how about your group?
Thanks, Wendy. So group 7, Talia, we were probably the last ones to return from the session because we had a lot to share. And I think we mostly talked about traditions. And some of us talked about the challenges of being the only ones celebrating Hanukkah, whether it's their grandchild being in the minority in school, or for me, as an early childhood educator, being in a school in a neighborhood that was predominantly not celebrating Hanukkah, and emphasizing that we get 8 presents for 8 nights. And so it was a nice discussion. Thank you,
Nice,
ladies.
thank you. Thanks so much for leading it. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Judy, how about your group?
So my group had fans of Bernice who like to take her Zoom classes. And we also talked, people talked a lot about their cooking and how much more they did cooking and baking since the pandemic. And we also talked about learning from grandmothers and mothers who helped teach us some of the traditional foods.
Nice. Thank you very much for jumping in. I appreciate it. Harriet Ann.
Group 6 talked about basic Hanukkah things, but then we started talking and reminiscing about things that our families had made in the past. Talking about one person had a family member who made gefilte fish, another person who made chopped liver, and how these are very important foods that they had eaten in their past.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you. Michelle.
So getting you spoke for our group, I just wanted to add, 'cause I had no idea that Cheryl, she knows how to cook pretty well. Where are you on this screen? Are you still there? Cheryl, Cordon Bleu you said you went to?
Yes,
She's
I
still
did.
here?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
had no
am.
idea she don't know how to cook like that.
Yeah.
So there you go. We have another chef among.
Tell me again, what was Michelle saying? Because I don't have a clear connection. What?
I am a graduate of Le Cordon Bleu in Paris, France, and
That's
classically
okay,
trained
sure.
chef.
Merci. Okay, yes.
Ooh
Wonderful.
la la.
Oui, oui, oh la la.
So Bernice, we could do the Bernice and Cheryl show.
Sure.
Exactly.
I am in
Exactly.
awe. I am in awe of Cheryl. I am so in awe.
No
of-
need to be, no need to be.
That's
No,
cool.
I'm in
It's
awe of
cool.
you. I am just a, as I said, a learned one from taking lessons.
Mhm.
I am so in awe. A year of your life. That is amazing. That is amazing.
Cheryl, do you work in the industry?
I did before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, it sort of shut things down. And I do a little bit now, but not like beforehand.
Okay,
So
okay, great. Beth, did somebody speak from your group or?
No, I'll speak.
Okay.
We talked about a lot of different things. What I really liked was some of the traditions that people had. For example, when people celebrate Christmas, they make gingerbread houses. But two of the people in my group did something like Hanukkah houses. And yes, it gets very messy, and that's part of the fun. And another person, instead of having Christmas stockings, they had stockings in the shape of a dreidel and put different things in there. So it was very interesting to hear different traditions. And
Interesting.
someone talked about one food that someone made for Thanksgiving that ended up not being really good. So none of us would try it. Had nothing to do with Hanukkah, but it was very interesting. People do try different kinds of recipes for things and they don't all work out
Oh.
well.
Mhm.
It was
So you try again.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Beth. Denise, did you end up having a group?
Denise Vogel was group 1.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's here.
I was group 1. Carol already spoke for our group.
Okay.
We also talked about traditions about gift giving in our families too. When to give the big gift and the gifts that you get every night, how versus
The
all
big
the
gift.
different ways,
Yeah.
all the
yeah.
different ways.
Yeah. And I grew up in a very non-Jewish school and all that. And so mom would give us a Christmas gift. I remember as a little girl, I got my Thumbelina doll. We would do, of course, Hanukkah. We not have a tree or anything, but we got something on Christmas Day. I don't know how long we did that for, but because everybody else was, not Jewish. So it just dawned on me.
I didn't get a chance to share this in my group because we had to come back to the big group. So is it okay if I share one thing in the big group, Wendy? It's okay? I taught in a high school my last 18 years of teaching, and I was the advisor for a unity club where everyone came together to learn about everybody's background, different cultures. It was a very diverse school. And every December we would have holiday party, and we learned about Hanukkah, we learned about Diwali, we learned about Kwanzaa and different things. So every year I brought in dreidels. I did make latkes, but I brought in dreidels and taught them how to play the dreidel game. And it's 4 years of high school. So you could tell who the seniors were, who the freshmen were, and in between, because every year they wanted to get a different color dreidel. So you had this whole diverse group of kids playing the dreidel game. And it was wonderful because they all knew the letters on the dreidel and they knew what they had to do. And they wanted to collect 4 different colors by the time they graduated. So everyone really left with good feelings about Hanukkah.
That's nice. Gina, you had your hand raised. Did you wanna?
I just wanted to say the same thing you did, which was when I was growing up, Hanukkah was not a thing. I mean, we had a meal, but the present giving really, I think, started in like the 60s. That,
Oh, yeah?
to keep up, so that the kids didn't feel bad because all their
left out.
friends were getting presents.
Right, right.
And I struggle with that, I struggle with that idea because I love to give gifts, but it's also like not really part of what
Hanukkah,
Hanukkah is.
Yeah.
Right, that's right.
Carol and Bernice, and then we're gonna switch to our next little part of our
I wanted to
program.
quickly share a story because we still laugh about it in our family. My son, who many of you know, is a cantor now and a pretty renowned. When he was a child, we went to the mall. We went to a place called Woodfield Mall, which was kind of the predecessor to Mall of America. Great big mall with a giant Santa and a house and all that stuff in the middle of the mall. And he said to me, "Can I see Santa?" And I said, "Sure, he's just a friendly man in a costume. He doesn't come to our house." He said, "Okay." He was about 4 years old. I see him sitting on Santa's lap, talking, and they're laughing, and it seems like it's going on forever. He gets off, and I said, "So what did you say to Santa?" He said, "I told him he's not allowed at my house because I'm Jewish, so I had to come see him at the mall."
Very cute, very cute. All right, Bernice, should we go on with Talia? Go on to the.
Yes, go on with Talia. Talia will also mention about, again, about the recipe book. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing all of your stories. And for those of you who have already shared your recipes with us, we are still taking submissions to make sure to give everyone have an opportunity. So if by the end of the year, December 31st, you can email me at tblank@wrj.org your recipe, I will be sure to include it in our cookbook that will be sent out sometime in the middle of January. And I am happy to share my screen and present something fun for you all. If you don't know, our one and only Rabbi Liz P.G. Hirsch has a podcast called Just for This, where she interviews women in leadership, and it's inspired by the story of Esther, and she features powerful stories of women who stand out in their fields. And just this week, she interviewed Micah Siva, who's a registered dietitian, food photographer, recipe writer, author, chef extraordinaire, who specializes in vegetarian Jewish cuisine. And so we just wanted to share a little snippet, a little taste, no pun intended or pun intended, of her interview this week in the hope that you enjoy and listen further. So I believe you should be able to hear the sound. Wendy, I see your face. So if you could give me a thumbs up when I give you a thumbs up, let me know if you can hear it.
Definitely. I'd love to know how you sort of came to think about the Jewish influences specifically and how Jewish culture shows up in your cookbook and in your recipes. And something that I know that you're attentive to is that there's not sort of one mainstream normative Jewish culture or type of cuisine because the Jewish diaspora is all around the world. So I would just love if you could talk a little bit about that.
I wasn't always specializing in Jewish cuisine by any means. I was actually quite nervous to do that because I thought it might pigeonhole me. I thought that maybe there wasn't a market, and I thought it might impact my ability to get hired by other folks who didn't necessarily want Jewish voices around. When it was 2018, my husband and I had just moved to the UK and we were living in London. And I was very, very close with my maternal grandmother, Eva. My family's from Western Canada, and I got a call from my mom in the middle of the night to say that my grandmother had just passed away. And it was Erev Rosh Hashanah, so the logistics of the burial were quite quick because it was right before sundown, and then it was going to be Rosh Hashanah, and then you can't exactly bury someone during those times. So it was basically within hours of her passing, she was buried. And so I couldn't get home because that's a 16 at least hour journey to get back. And I didn't know how to cope with that. It was my first grandparent that I had lost. She was really someone that I used to cook with all the time growing up, and most of my memories of her revolved around her teaching me to cook in the kitchen. And so the only way I knew how to cope was making a dish that she would make every Rosh Hashanah, which was kreplach. And of course, I was vegetarian, so I made vegetarian kreplach, and I just made dozens and dozens. I wasn't making them for anyone. I got out of bed the next morning, I was like, I must make kreplach all day. It was at that time that it had kind of dawned on me that I enjoyed being vegetarian, but when it came to Jewish holidays, I always felt a little left out because our holiday meal was the centerpiece of the holiday. No matter what holiday it was like brisket, the chicken, the schmaltz, everything revolved around food. We were very much food is our Judaism.
What happened?
And I realized that I'd been missing out on some of it because I wasn't eating the same foods. And when it came to holidays that I was hosting, I'd make a vegetarian meal, but there wasn't necessarily much that screamed, this is the holiday, because it's not like I was making brisket or a roast chicken. And I was just kind of making a nice dinner. And so I realized that I'd been missing that part of my culture and community and the way that I connected to my faith. So I started to just play around with it a little bit to say, like, how can I make the dishes that I grew up on, that my grandparents made, that my mom still makes, and make it in a way that makes me want to make it for generations and are ways that I can make it for my family. And so I started to play around with it a little bit more after that point and started to write a very loose cookbook proposal based around the foods that are Jewish in many ways, but with vegetarian alternatives.
So that is a little snippet of this week's podcast episode with Micah Siva. I really hope you take some time to listen further anywhere you get your podcasts on the Just for This website, because she does have a lot more interesting experiences to share. She also has a wonderful Instagram account. If you're on Instagram, you can find her at Nosh with Micah. And she also submitted a recipe for our cookbook. So when that comes out, I encourage you to try that along with the other delicious recipes that will be included. And as we draw to a close, I'm going to pass it back to Wendy to share out some of our upcoming programs.
I'm hoping I'm not frozen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
I'd
I'm
love
not, yeah, I'm here, but my screen looks like I'm frozen and there's not, I don't see a list on the screen.
It's there.
Okay.
Wendy, I made a misstatement. I said we had 5 women rabbis and we only had 4 in our group, so I wanted to preface that to correct.
Okay, Diane, thank you for clarifying. Talia, I'm at a loss here because I have nothing on my screen. I'm like messed up here. I might have to have
Wendy,
you.
do you want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's Jan.
Thanks,
Upcoming
Jan.
programs and important dates, January 8th at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, WRJ Lilith Salon, Her Bitter Year and Ours. January 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, Lobbying to Make Change. February 6th at 8 Eastern, Tu B'Shvat Seder. February 18th, WRJ Repro Shabbat Program. Evening, specific details and registration to come. February 21st through 23rd, Reform Movement Wide Repro Shabbat.
Repro,
Yeah. And then April 4th through 7th, WRJ Marla J. Feldman Social Justice Conference in DC. Needs-based scholarships are available. Micro grant applications are now open. Please join our online programming space in Mighty Network to be kept up to date on all WRJ programs.
Thank you very much, Jan. And even though I can't see all of you or the notes, just know that in preparation for the Rabbi Marla J. Feldman Social Justice Conference, WRJ is making a real effort to talk about lobbying, to talk about reproduction, Shabbat, et cetera, in preparation for us to be that much more knowledgeable when we go to Washington in April. Those of us will attend North American Board meeting, followed by the fantastic conference for social action over that weekend, social justice. So again, I can't see you, but on behalf of Bernice and I and Peter and the wonderful Talia for pulling it all together for us, the amazing chef Bernice and her talented videographer and wonderful husband, taster extraordinaire, Peter, we can't thank you enough for making the time to join us. This was part of the WRJ program committee, and we will be offering more programs, like we said, the Tu B'Shvat Seder, et cetera, but we're also doing and supporting WRJ in their efforts to prepare us for Washington in April. And then we'll come back strong and mighty after that, providing programming through the spring and summer. We thank you. We hope you'll send in some more.
Wendy, you're not able to be heard.